We're broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, a liberal zombie apocalypse of the Twin Cities metro area. The House and Senate are officially back in session. They broke for the Muslim tradition of Eid. Is it? How do you pronounce it? Is it Eid? E-I-D?
I guess I don't know that one.
Eid,
I know Ramadan, but yeah, I don't
know.
You don't know? Okay, Eid. There you go. They are back in session. We have like 39 days left to go. Not good. Lots of bad things happening. We couldn't do the show without the sponsors that make this possible: Alpine Cabinetry in East St. Cloud, Warren Wessel of Warren Wessel Realty. If you're buying or selling a home, give my friend Warren a call. Just because he's my friend, he's on speed dial. He's not. I don't have the number memorized. So here's the number: 612-419-7453. By the way, did I mention Warren sings in my church's choir? Very good baritone. Got to say, sells the hell out of your home too. And if you're buying a home with Warren Wessel, go ahead and give your financing to John Galt Mortgage. Who is John Galt? Look it up. John Galt Mortgage Company. Great social media. They tell you what they believe, which is the same things that we believe on this show. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com and learn more. Joining us today, we got a full crowd here. Alex Plekish, you're the RNC Committeeman for the Minnesota GOP. What the hell is an RNC Committeeman? Most people don't even know what the heck that is.
Oh, thanks for the question. I didn't know either when I first ran for the office a few years ago. The RNC, everybody knows about Republican National Committee, and everyone kind of looks at them in a certain way, and most people don't really quite understand what the organization is all about. Well, the RNC is comprised of only 168 members. That's it, nationwide. And what it is it's 3 people per state, so that would be 150, plus the territories and Washington, D.C., each of which have 3. The 3 people are the chair of the party for that territory or that state, and then an elected committeeman and an elected committee woman for each of those states.
So you got to go to the RNC meetings with David Han, huh?
I do.
Oh,
yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah, so
we're big fans of him on this show. Did you know
I've
that?
heard. So the RNC, and when you get to be in the RNC, there's really no job description. I said that when I was running, when I became aware of it. There's no job description. You kind of make of the job what you will. What I feel is that if you are a committed RNC member, the thing to do is to establish relationships with the other people at the RNC, bring back best practices from what you see other states doing, and the relationships you develop, you can maybe bring back staff resources and financial resources to the state. Since you asked, when I was with Michael Whatley about a month ago now, and he just got elected,
explain to people who that is. I know who it is. But
Michael Whatley is the new RNC chair.
Yeah,
he replaced Ronna McDaniel. That's a whole different story, and happy to get into it if you'd like. But Michael Whatley's become a friend over the last few years. Little did I know a year ago that he would actually become the RNC chair. I don't think anybody knew. He didn't know. But he is the chair now. He's a friend. I invited him to actually stay at my house when he came out for a wedding about a year and a half ago or so. And he wasn't able to make it, but he was invited and he was planning to do it. But nonetheless, when I was there a few weeks ago, he told me that Minnesota is now considered a swing state. And for those that hadn't heard that, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
If we are now considered a swing state, that means that RNC resources, be it staff or financial, can come to our state and help us win the White House, and that has the down ballot effect of helping us on all the other ballots. So that's part of what we do at the RNC, but we kind of set the guidelines, the guardrails, the highway, if you will, for people to do what they do throughout the country.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that description. Now, I've invited you here. Actually, you called me.
I did call you
Friday.
Yes.
I was like,
yeah.
well, I'd love to chat with you.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thanks for coming in, because you took issue with a couple things that happened on the show, just a couple.
Yeah.
You said we're still mostly giving a good description of what happened on the Otter Tail County delegate thing. So I also invited Mark Bishofsky, who's one of the members of the State Exec Committee. I think our audience knows him, but give people a 1-minute elevator speech about who you are there, Mark.
Activist, conservative, liberty-loving dad, fighting for the people, the grassroots, trying to make sure Republicans stay conservative, don't move to the left. I want to shout out to Carol Hexum, Merle,
Oh my God, we got a lot of comments up there.
Thanks
Oh,
for
wow.
watching. Thanks
I
for
guess
the
I'm
call.
supposed to watch this, am I?
No, you know what? So that's why we got Mega Jesse here, who doesn't do as well as Bridget, but Bridget's only a Tuesday person.
Yep, that's right. But yeah, we do have some good comments here. We got Carol Hexum saying, thank you for spreading the truth about the corruption in Otter Tail County.
Absolutely.
We got Tucker. We got Chris online. We got Diane Donnelly all saying hello. We've also got Billy22 saying hello as well. Winter Walker, Forest Lake Conservative, Jackie Myron, Pam MN, North MN. So great to have all you guys tuning in here today.
Best audience on the planet. Love you guys very much. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're mostly going to be reading comments on Rumble today. We do put something on YouTube, but who knows when they take us down there. We're completely off Facebook at this point. If you want to join our after show, you can go to Locals, go to Rumble, hit join on Locals. I screwed this up last time, by the way, but like and subscribe. And if you want to interrupt us any time, hit the Rumble rant and we'll read your comment live on air. Okay, I did the ad read. Audience. Dawson, there we go. I almost forgot you, Dawson.
Dawson's
Running the
in there
dials,
working
Mr.
out.
Deep State. I knew I had one more
He's
in
working
me.
out as he runs the dials. I like it.
Yeah, I'm sick of sitting down for an hour and a half every 2 days or so here.
Yeah, but holy cow, the chair. I sat in his chair the other day. Oh boy,
It's a nice looking
it's
chair.
Scary. It's not just nice looking. It's comfy.
And I'm till 1:45, guys.
Yes,
Just so you know,
forgot. Yes, you got to be gone by 1:45. Got to get to the hospital.
working like crazy.
There you go. Okay, so let's try to get to the point. Alex, you had a problem with our account on Otter Tail County. So where did we get the story on Otter Tail County wrong?
Well, let me start by saying most of what I heard was accurate.
Okay.
So essentially, it was mostly accurate. There were a couple of minor points that I thought I should correct, and that is that it was stated a few times that that Barb Sutter was not there. She actually was there. She was on Zoom. She didn't really say anything. She didn't get involved in the argument, if you will, but she did weigh in on the votes. So there was
She did vote in some of the.
She
I know
did
I
vote.
had her on some.
Yeah.
You got to understand my problem. David Hand makes these meetings secret, so I have to get loose accounts. It's not like I just get the minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like I actually have a feed to these meetings. So that's one of those ones where it's like if I missed her that she actually voted, it just
Well, and they
it's
kick
someone's
people out if they
recollection.
do show up anyway, right?
Exactly.
Well, anyway, I want to correct that we had a more full house than you thought. Another thing was that the meeting was actually called initially by me. But Mark also weighed in on it, but it was initially called by me and Wendy Phillips, and Mark weighed in on it too, and the three of us, that's a quorum enough to call
Right.
for an emergency meeting.
That's the rule.
And so that's why it happened. And I was the first to say, hey, we gotta hit this. And I can get into all the details of what transpired thereafter, but
Well, let's pull up a timeline, Alex, because I want to make sure I've got the timeline correct. Is there a way you could blow this up there real quick, Dawson, so that
It'll be
it's
hard
easy for
Alex
us
to
on the
see
screen?
it, but
We
maybe you
got a
can see it,
rumble around
Alex.
here real quick.
Yeah, we got a $5 Rumble Rant. Tucker91 says, for Jake's new chair fund.
Oh,
so
well, that's
appreciate that, Tucker.
That's so nice.
Nice.
I didn't sit much yesterday. I actually worked from home and
Yeah.
outdoors. I had a little sun.
I had
It's
a
great.
feeling.
I can't
What's
quite
that?
make it out at this angle, but I think I know.
Well,
the-
I'm going to read it to you, Alex. I don't mean to throw this at you here, but I want to make sure we got the timeline. So basically on February 27th, Otter Tail County Board tries – so this is caucus night.
Right.
You've probably seen videos at this point. You've probably seen testimonies. So there's a lot of testimony of the Otter Tail County Board, which didn't like the fact that they got basically a large faction of grassroots people standing up to him. And in one case, in Purim, actually removed the guy that was trying to chair the convention, which is the right of the people that show up to determine who's going to convene and chair a convention, or sorry, a caucus. Then tried to stop voting from happening using things like you're past 8 o'clock and this can't vote. So that happened on February 27th. So February 27th literally was a contentious time, but elections did occur on February 27th in precincts. March 5th, after probably a week deciding that this is an issue with the Otter Tail County Board, and the Otter Tail County Board's full of what I would consider establishment people, MNGOP Chair David Hand unilaterally decides to remove all 2024 Otter Tail County delegates and decrees that only the 2022 delegates will remain in effect. And I say he unilaterally made this decision because you guys are the state executive committee, both you and Mark. Were you aware of his decision before he made it?
No.
Okay, there you go. So, and you guys are the most inner part of the party, right? I would argue you guys are David Hand's bosses.
Well, and if I can interject, don't you feel, Alex, like maybe we should have been given an opportunity to kind of be a part of that decision?
I do, and that's one reason I immediately said we need to call a meeting for this. I felt like this is something that was serious enough that the entire executive committee should have weighed in on it. So that was, again, one of the inspirations for me to say we need to call a meeting, talk about this.
And that's good because it looks like March 12th, so a week later, you guys were effective at getting a state exec meeting. However, Han would say he called the meeting.
Well, technically he does because we say we need one.
Yeah,
But
and then
it's-
he's like, "Well, we're gonna. I think we should. I think I heard he said I think we should have a meeting." I'm like, no, they called the meeting. But okay, whatever. So state exec meets, and what I understand is the votes weren't there to actually just reinstate the delegates of 2024, and at some point, and I want to say it was 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m.,
It was
something
nearly
like
2
that.
o'clock in the morning, yeah.
You actually are the one that made a motion
Right.
to suspend David. I think you actually had stronger language, but to suspend David Hand's decision, which is what the final motion was, and institute a task force to determine who are delegates in 2024. You're the man that made that motion. What was your intent of that motion?
So, yeah, what was the problem that I and a number of other people had with simply waving a wand and saying they're all elected is that there was no way to know who those people would be.
Yeah.
It was technically, you could say philosophically that's what we would want to do, which is what I would want to do, but there was no technical way to figure out who those people are.
That's
And
what
I-
you believed at the time.
And I kind of still do, but
Okay.
but it was a problem. And but what I've said, I said it in that meeting multiple times. I think Mark would agree with this and verify it. And I said it at other meetings. And I just came up with this mantra, but I said it more than once, which is that the remedy was worse than the malady.
Mm-hmm.
And that we cannot disenfranchise all these people. We have to find a better way. We have to find a better solution. So the motion that carried that evening, and it was nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. I was glad I made the meeting as early as I did.
By the way, do you realize why it lasted so long? Do you have any sense of why? I mean, that's very
Well, there were
abnormal.
there were actually two subjects that were talked
Right.
about, and
First one I believe was cleared within an hour.
57A took an hour, hour
yeah,
and a
it's
half.
about an hour.
Do,
and
do you feel like maybe some forces were trying to filibuster and
no,
move
I don't
things
think
and
that.
make
I think
painful-
there was two
okay.
different issues. So I wouldn't go there. I don't think that's.
I'll
it.
go there,
And
but
we were
okay.
going to stay as long as we needed to. Frankly,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody anticipated it would go till 2 o'clock in the morning, but I think we're all committed enough to do whatever we needed to do. At least that's my view. So what I felt like was the right thing to do, and it passed with a supermajority of the vote, was that we should form you call it a committee, a commission, a task force, whatever, of people from all the stakeholders,
Yep.
all sides. Form a committee to take a look at this and come up with a better answer.
Mm-hmm.
What that answer was going to look like, I had no idea. I just knew it had to be better than what we had. So, and everybody kind of agreed with that.
So
Mark,
the intent of this committee was to have something that was better than what
exactly.
was okay. So
Mark agreed with
massive
that.
failure on that part, right?
Yeah, Mark agreed with that. Everybody agreed with it. It was kind of interesting. All kind of the people you'd think are usually kind of
By the way, not
opposite.
everyone agreed on it. Obviously,
No, not everyone agreed.
Bergstrom,
I think
Lee
it was the
Prinkla.
best thing we were going to come away with,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And I would have just much rather have had the affidavits, the people that were on those, the people that were verified via the precinct chairs to become the delegates. I think there's enough evidence that the voting started before 8 o'clock. It's clear to me, but that's here nor there.
You got to read
Well,
Crucified
what-
19. Hold on one second.
Yep,
Crucified's
Otter
got a
Tail
great
County
comment.
has 1,000 lakes and one gigantic swamp. Good point.
Although you don't like swamp, you like septic tank, don't
Septic
ya?
tank, the grease and the scum floats to the top, as in politics, the grease and the
It's a
scum
very,
floats to the
you
top.
got something there. Once Trump starts calling it a septic tank, you know you won.
Well,
Let me
septic
move
tank
on. Let me move
swamps
on.
are
No,
beautiful.
let me
Well,
comment
can,
about.
can I finish this time? Let's get this timeline out
Well,
there.
before you move on to the
Okay.
next, there's a point in what Mark just said, is when we had this first emergency meeting, a lot of what he was referring to with affidavits and all that was not known.
But
that
the party
came out
did
later.
have it. Unfortunately, they didn't share it with
Yeah.
us.
So at that
Shenanigans.
point,
Do you understand that they did have those affidavits that were made available?
well, I know now, but I didn't
Yeah,
then.
okay.
So
So that to me,
So
isn't
can't-
that just isn't that wrong? That was withheld from us.
We do have a rumble rant. We got to break.
Yeah,
for the
$20
rumble.
Rumble Rant failed candidate. Alex, thank you for coming in and providing an additional perspective on this critical issue.
That's from failed candidate. By the way, I do appreciate that because hands too chicken shit to ever.
And just
sit in
one
those
last thing,
chairs.
just a little olive branch here. Like I know we've maybe butted head a few times, Alex. I know that if we met in some tavern, had a beer, and we just didn't get into the depths of politics, we would be just fine. It's like, but when we get deep into these issues, there's going to be this division, and we're gonna bounce heads.
My conversation with you on Friday on the phone, and it was the first time you and I have ever spoke, even though I
Right.
tried to meet you when we were at an event together, but I got busy there. Seemed like you're a reasonable guy, so that's where I hope to go. Is let's level set. Let's make sure we both understand the timeline, and agree on these facts, and then maybe I can convince you that this thing was doomed from the beginning because of the malice of what I would consider David Hand and probably some of the Otter Tail County Board.
Well, I was a little bit more optimistic than that, but go ahead.
Okay, well, then maybe we are going to get to the same point because that sounds like you realize the follies your way. March 16th, Otter Tail County legislators sent a letter to MNGOP calling for Otter Tail County delegates to be reinstated immediately. That is...
That's 18th.
Say that again?
That's 18th. You said 16th.
Oh, my God. Well, I guess at some point, all people get to a certain age where their vision starts to go because it's
No,
like
not
literally
all. I don't need
right in
glasses.
front of my screen, and I missed. It's actually easier for me to see it right there. Unfortunately, I
There
should
you
have been reading off that screen. March 18th, I've been corrected. This is The Truth Hurts. We better get the truth. March 18th. Jeff Backer and Tom Murphy, to give them credit, wrote that letter, and then it was joined by eventually like 14 House members, and then
all the
Senator
counties
Wiesenberg.
too, or most of the county
Correct.
BPOUs.
Okay, March 21st, MNGOP state exec holds a meeting where Han refuses to tell them who is on the task force and when they'll meet. You're the man who made the motion of a task force. It seems to me against the spirit of the task force or committee, whatever you want to call it, to be done in secrecy. And probably unbeknownst to you at the time, they weren't even going to meet until 2 weeks later.
I did not know at the time that it was going to be that long. I don't know if that was planned or it just worked out that way, but I certainly didn't know it. I didn't expect it. I was going to say I'm glad I made the emergency meeting, the first one, when I was able to, because I had a city council meeting that night, and some of our council meetings go pretty late. Fortunately, it was a short one, so I got home and jumped on the Zoom only 5 minutes after it began, so I was there for most all of it. My first disappointment in this process was that after most everyone agreed to form this committee, we'll just call it a committee, and to take a look at this issue, my first disappointment is that it was 9 days later at our next regularly scheduled executive committee meeting when we were going to ratify the committee and maybe some things would already have gotten done. Nothing had gotten done, and the only thing that we learned that night was that this committee of 12 people had been crafted and put together. Everybody had been notified of those 12 people that the committee had been formed, and it was going to remain secret. I will tell you that I disagreed with that. The reasoning that it was supposedly kept secret is so that all members of the committee wouldn't be known, so that they could be barraged with emails and texts and all that stuff. I suppose that could be a justification. I don't agree with it because you know what? If you sign up for this job, you got to take it.
Yeah, and
So I don't have a problem with that.
Against the spirit of America, too.
Right.
I mean, it
So-
sounds like straight out of the KGB. We're going to have a secret committee. It
And the
won't be
committee
known
was
to the
gonna
public.
meet.
Aren't we a republic? Aren't we a democratic form of government where we don't have hidden
That's
task
part
force?
of the rough part of being in politics is you should be transparent
Correct.
and should be open to
By
that.
the way, we have open meeting laws. You know this very well.
Right.
You're a city
Yeah, I
council.
know. I've
There's
been-
open meeting laws in
boards
Minnesota.
and all that stuff. I get that. So I was disappointed in that, but I didn't even know technically that I was on that committee at that point in time.
Wait, what day are we talking about?
Thursday, would have been like the
24th, 5th.
no, I think it was earlier than that.
Well, hold on. This this state exec meeting was on Thursday, March 21st. So it was after that?
That was it. I think.
So the day you guys have a meeting, you didn't even know you were on this committee.
No, and supposedly I was told, but it wasn't clear enough that I was told. So I did. So when the announcement was made, this is kind of not even half comical, but when it was announced that there was 12 members on the committee, 4 of whom were on the state exec, and I didn't know I was on the committee that night. I'm thinking, how in the heck was I not on the committee? It was my idea. Apparently I was, but it just wasn't made clear to me that I was until a few days later. So the clock started about. So what are we doing here?
Do you understand the clock here? I
Yeah.
don't want to like insult your
clock.
intelligence. I just don't know what your experience is when it comes to politics. But you realize that a convention has this window in April 16th?
19th of April is the last day of a convention.
April 16th, which would have been a
16th, excuse me.
Tuesday night, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you were to have a convention on a Saturday,
It's the
it was
13th.
April 13th.
Which means April 3rd.
April 3rd, because they need a 10-day window for a
Exactly.
call. So the clock is ticking. The call by the Otter Tail County has to go out, or the state. And you understand the state executive had the authority to call for a convention, right?
Right. So if you could bear with me, I'm going to pull this up here. Some people on the state exec may not like this, but just to be transparent and let you know where I'm coming from.
That's
Mark
what we
got
like
a
on the
copy of
show.
this, okay? I wrote a note because the clock was ticking, and I saw this coming, and it was bothering me. And I hadn't even known I was on the committee at some point. So on the Saturday prior to what would have been essentially the deadline, I wrote this. Mark got this too. So if you can bear with me, do you mind if I read this?
I'm bearing.
Okay.
Let's go.
So it
I'm
says,
bearing.
this is my outreach, and this is the first of a couple that went out by other people. This was the first. To my fellow members on the State Executive Committee, it pains me to write this, but I feel I need to address this now, at what is effectively the 11th hour, because I fear the clock is about to run out on this issue without a fair and proper resolution, and we can't let that happen. Our obligation as leaders is to resolve this matter now. Let me start by laying out the timeline, which plays into yours, as I remember it from the moment I was made aware of the issues arising from the OTC caucuses, because the timeline matters. On the night of the caucuses, February 27th, and/or over the ensuing next few days, the state party was informed that there had been some serious issues at the Otter Tail County caucuses, and that help was needed to resolve them. I learned all that after the fact. On March 5th, all of us on the state exec were informed that an executive decision had been made, without executive committee input or approval, that, quote, no legitimate elections occurred on caucus night, unquote. That's from Chair Han. And the OTC would have had to revert back to the delegates elected in 2022, which itself had been decided under a cloud of controversy. I personally had grave concerns about that decision, especially without having had any executive committee discussion. By March 11, there was enough concern raised by members of the State Executive Committee to call for an emergency meeting, which was quickly pulled together for the following day, March 12. At that meeting, which lasted until nearly 2 a.m., I made a motion that a special ad hoc committee or commission be formed to study the matter. The committee would study the evidence, talk to people with direct knowledge of the issues, and ostensibly come up with a better solution than to disenfranchise all of the caucus goers by canceling out the 2024 caucus elections. There had to be a better solution, and a majority of the state exec agreed with me. As I had stated several times during our meeting on March 12, the, quote, remedy was worse than the malady. I was expected that two things would happen the next day, Wednesday, March 13th. One, a communique would be sent out from the MNGOP summarizing the decision the state exec had made the night before. I know that Jenna was asked by the executive director to craft a draft.
Jenna's the secretary.
Right.
Yep.
To craft a draft message, which was done that very same next day. I read the draft and thought it was excellent. It was well balanced, factual, and articulate. However, no message was ever sent about the outcome of that special meeting. It still mystifies me why it would not have gone out. 2. Members of the ad hoc committee were to be selected by the chair, being comprised of a few members of the state executive committee, as well as a number of people from OTC representing both sides of the issue. Tim Miller was asked to come up with a list of names from which the OTC committee members would be chosen. That list was also provided the next day, on Wednesday, March 13. It was expected that the members of that committee would have been quickly selected by the chair and then approved by the entire state executive committee the following week at our regularly scheduled meeting on March, I think it's 21.
That was commonly understood by state exec, is that you guys would confirm?
Yeah, this is what I wrote,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
At that meeting, it was announced that a committee had indeed been formed, but that the members of that committee were being kept private. I was informed that I would be on that committee just 2 hours before our meeting, although it was unclear to me and only confirmed a few days later. However, the announcement to the entire board was effectively just a notification and not a ratification, as most of us had assumed it would be. Either way, it had been more than 8 full days since our decision to inform this committee had been made the week before. Yet here we are, another 10 days later, and we still haven't met as a committee, let alone having come up with a recommended solution. That's 18 days since we had our, quote, emergency meeting. It is clear that nothing will have been decided by this coming Tuesday, which means that this will have dragged out for 3 full weeks at a minimum, and we are just about out of time. Although I disagree with the decision not to disclose the members of the ad hoc committee to the executive committee, I don't understand why, at the least, the members of the ad hoc committee would not have been told who the other members of the committee were, so that we could begin to have some dialogue, or maybe even schedule a Zoom call or two.
Right.
Just
Just a common sense critique, right?
Yeah.
Like anyone would go, well, who else on the committee? Maybe we should start talking about this issue.
Right. Nonetheless, I was told that a physical meeting would be scheduled for all members of the committee to get together, but that schedules were hard to coordinate. I have certainly made myself available given how important this is. The last I heard was that a meeting might be held this coming Monday, April 1st, which it was.
Wait. You sent, when did you send this out?
Saturday, the day, 2 days.
March 30th. And you don't even know if there's a meeting on Monday.
Not for sure, no. However, here it is, the night of Easter, vigils, and the day before Easter, and I still do not have any confirmation of a meeting that only might take place on Monday. Given that the last date a county convention can be held is April 16, a Tuesday, but that realistically it would have to be held on Saturday, April 13, and that convention calls must go out at least 10 days prior to a convention, we have effectively run out of time. I feel enough evidence has come out for a committee to have made a fair decision, to Mark's point. However, I am afraid we no longer have time to do so. The time for our Plan A to form a balanced committee to produce a recommendation which would then be presented to the entire state executive committee for approval this week has run out. We must now come up with a Plan B. I feel we effectively have only 2 days to come up with another solution. I am open to ideas.
Do you think there's malice behind that, or is that just someone that can't actually manage an organization? What do you think is behind this?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I would hate. I don't want to say because I really don't know.
Well,
But But the process was not good, and here I am sitting here. Like I said, proactively. I feel like Daniel coming into
Yep.
Lion's Den in a way. But I want to tell the truth. I want to tell it the way I see it.
that's what we want to do. We want to get to the truth.
and have people take it from there.
Well, okay, so it does sound like we see this the same way. Eventually, April 1st, that's Monday night, they do have a meeting of the, and you probably could understand that the people that were participating on the committee that David Hand selected were not going to give a pro-grassroots decision.
Well, there were at least 2 people there. I would
At
say
least 2
people
people.
that
That found out, I think, the day of, by the way.
that represented, I would say, the grassroots
Correct,
side of
yes.
things. I wish I'd gotten to know them a little bit better, but
Two people out of what, 10, was it?
12.
12, there you go.
Yeah.
So two against 10.
And there were no, I wouldn't say that because I think I'm kind of there, and there were people that were neutral, so it wasn't quite as.
It was skewed,
one-
right? It was definitely skewed one way.
It probably was on balance more one way than the other.
There you
but
go.
there weren't really
and,
two sides.
And it was
There were-
secret, and the meetings didn't occur until the last day. Okay, so it's amazing to me you don't attribute malice to it, but okay, maybe you think more optimistically on political figures than I do. I just have seen this for so many years and commented on it. But then you guys actually meet April 2nd, so that's Tuesday, April 2nd. Basically, a convention's got to be called the next day to have it on Saturday.
Right.
Han, if he wanted a convention, he'd rather have it on a Tuesday night because that asshole would just rather have it convene at 6 o'clock, and then they have to adjourn at 11 when the janitor comes in, and we didn't get to the votes, which tends to be all he ever does is filibuster, which is why you guys have meetings till 2 a.m. All right, so April 2nd, state exec votes, and this is where I take issue with you, Alex, and we've never met each other, but I would thought highly of you because I've heard good things up to this point, but a motion's made. At this point, I have to just assume he's a turncoat, Tim Miller, who is supposed to represent the CD7 grassroots, and at that point, and even my conversations with him, he was, at least in votes at the committee and then conversations he's had with people, but he makes a motion, and let's make sure I got this correct, to recommend even though you guys have the authority to call a convention on April 13th, you guys have that as a state exec, as an ability and authority, but he decides to make a motion to recommend to the Otter Tail County Board to not have a convention, and it gets seconded by David Henn. Do I have that part correct?
You do, but there was a pretty complex argument that went into that before he made it, because Tim is very much like me, that he feels that the right solution was to seat the 2024 delegates, but because of the way the conversation turned in that ad hoc committee, it ended up being where it was. And I would second guess myself on this too. Okay, that's a hard question, and I'll face it. And you may not accept this, but this was my reasoning, is that during that committee, I was part of that committee. I was there for the whole time. Again, it was a recommendation that I made that I thought this committee was going toward. And we had some dialogue and discussion, all that. It wasn't heated, but it was a lot of stuff going on. And let me start by saying how this committee started, I disagreed with.
Right.
And that was
and you just admitted that it was skewed towards
there
the
was
result that you probably
more
weren't looking for.
one side than another, if you want to choose sides.
Well, it doesn't matter when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah,
that it
but
was
here's
skewed.
what happened, and this is the total transparency here, is that there was all the papers from all the caucuses were plopped on the table in a big crate, and ostensibly, presumably, that they were going to be gone through. But on top of that, the very first part of the meeting was there was this procedure that had been crafted at the MNGOP. And it was that all of us at this committee were given a piece of paper that was called a rubric. Basically, that's a formula. And the idea was that all 12 of us were going to be split up into teams of 2. We were each going to be given a stack of these.
Just out of curiosity, you're saying there was already a plan and procedure for this committee? Okay,
Right.
interesting. So
Yeah.
you guys don't know who's on the committee, didn't know when you were going to meet, and all
And
of a sudden
suddenly
there's
we're
already
given this. This is how it's going to work.
procedures going on.
Yeah,
No
this-
malice here, by the way.
Yeah, so this is how it's going to work.
Such a hit job.
And the idea was that each of the teams would go through this, they call it a rubric, which is a formula.
Yeah.
Did it meet the timelines? Did you close nominations by a certain time, and did you all this kind of stuff? Well, if we went through that, if we accepted that as the method of qualifying the delegates, almost nobody would get elected.
Of course they wouldn't.
And so I said,
of course, that's the exact result they were going for.
So I said, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't say we're not. I said, I disagree with this because it's a fait accompli as to what would be the end result. We'd spend hours doing this, and we'd end up with people being disenfranchised. So we never went there. The committee sort of agreed, and all the work that went into creating this thing went away because we didn't do it. That's why the paperwork was not reviewed, and people look at that as we didn't do our job. Well, the point is, if we had done the job, we would have disenfranchised people, so we didn't do that. So it was more of a philosophical discussion of how can we get to a better solution. Along the way, again, my recommendation was, and there seemed to be general agreement with this idea at this point in the time, was that, okay, one of the key reasons why people were deemed to be disqualified by the leadership, if you will, was this registration form.
I definitely won't call them leaders, but okay, we'll go with that for now.
I'll call them leaders. So the
you think the Otter Tail County Board's leading?
Well, they're in the position. They're the people. So.
That's even sketchy.
Well, I don't want to. I don't really want to go there. But
yeah.
The registration form was supposed to be filled out by all people that were showing up to the caucus.
Right.
And it was colors matter here, so I'll bring it up. The official form that was provided to both locations was a blue form. That was the official form, if you will. And it had
Which
all
is not the GOP form, by the way.
No, it's their own form. But it had the information that you would expect. Your name, your address, your email address, that sort of thing.
Sure.
So it was pretty routine stuff. And on the back side of that blue form were the rules of the county. And also at the end was a section, a couple of paragraphs or so, that I would call
Alex,
a loyalty pledge.
We're somewhat in the entertainment business here. I don't want to get down in the weeds here, okay?
But it's important.
I don't think it is important because
it is. It
no,
is.
because I think I know where you're going on this.
Well, you may not.
All right, maybe you'll teach me something. I fear that you're just going down in the weeds.
No, because I
and we
think it's
have to
important.
get to how you end up writing a great email like you did March 30th.
That's what I want to get
and then
to.
voting to basically kill the delegates.
There's where that's, and I'm getting to that. So this is
Okay.
background information. So these forms were people objected to them that came in with
Correct,
because of the
yes.
history what went on there, which is
Those forms are not a legal binding thing.
No, they're
the form that they wanted to use was the official MNGOP form. So
Yeah. So anyway, people that were irritated over history, some of them would cross out the paragraphs
Correct.
or line out things, and that was used as an excuse to disqualify people.
and do you believe that's a valid excuse?
Well, maybe, but
Who do you
I don't-
believe is in charge of a precinct caucus?
Here's the thing. I don't
who's
think
in charge of a precinct caucus?
The caucus convener.
The
would be.
caucus convener, the precinct, right?
But they also have forms. So let me just.
But hold on, the precinct can determine what they're going to do. This is the business of
Precinct
the precinct
chair
caucus.
is in charge.
Correct, yeah. And actually the body of people that show up that can participate are in charge of a precinct caucus. You see how the Ottertail County Board was trying to do this from a
Well-
top-down approach, but technically it's supposed to be, it's the most beautiful thing actually, man. So people that want to get rid of the caucus system, it's the most grassroots bottom-up approach, is that the precincts, the smallest polity, come together and determine the rules and determine where they're going, as long as it fits within the
And I don't
Minnesota
disagree
laws.
with that. I don't.
Okay.
But to carry this through to the end, because I'm going to try and get this because it matters to me, is a lot of people didn't want to fill it out as proper. They crossed things out.
Sure.
The other location knew about this in advance, and they came up with an alternative form that was orange, a different color, and it had all the same stuff.
Which was
except-
the actual official MNGOP form. You realize that?
but-
It's
but
literally from the website of the MNGOP.
that loyalty part was not on
Right,
there.
because the MNGOP didn't have a loyalty.
And then there was
pledge.
another form still that didn't even have any of that stuff on it. So the point is, there was all these multiple different versions and different things. So here's my point. I got to say, listen, are we in agreement in the room that we want to come up with a solution that may be a compromise that we all can kind of agree with? And everyone basically said, yeah, we would. And I said, how about this? How about if if the county calls a convention, and in order to be admitted into that convention, everybody has to sign the form. If you disagree with it, if you want to be part of the dialogue, you sign the form. Then you get to go in and you get to have dialogue. You get to debate. You get to change things if you want to, but it allows you to come in and make sure it's very clear.
And that was agreed on?
There was a general head nodding at that point, okay? And if it's made very clear to people that if you want to be part of the dialogue, you have to sign this form, and then you can go in and you can have your debates. General head nodding we were going that way. That was kind of where I thought it was going to end up. And then unfortunately it took a turn. The chair asked the lawyer who was present, the Republican the state lawyer on retainer, well, what's the legal point of view? Are we at risk for anything here? And there was
I'm sure they had a very grassroots oriented response.
yeah, there was lawyers. Pardon for the lawyers that may be in the room anywhere, but
There's
lawyers are
definitely not
all
in here.
about why you can't do something, not so much why you can. So here's a risk. There's we could be open up for litigation or this and that. I felt like saying, so what? So what? Let it happen. Let's deal with that later. But it changed the dynamic of the group.
Okay,
where
but okay.
it ended
okay,
up where
I
we
gotta
ended up.
interrupt you. Who gives a shit about the group? You actually have the voice in the state executive committee the following night, and you voted for a motion that killed a convention. I don't understand how you arrive at, because everything you're telling me is heroic. Alex here, the email on March 30th, the good motion, goodish, okay, goodish motion, but it definitely move in the right direction. I would consider that a compromise motion, but then you end up voting for the motion that killed the convention the next day. How do you arrive at that point?
Yeah. I expected this question, and I'll tell you flat out. I might second guess myself in this, but here's my reasoning. I knew that night that I was going to make an alternative motion for the thing that I wanted to do. I also, and Mark will verify this, he was there, I said, I'm going to vote in favor of this, but it's because I had committed to the process of the committee, not knowing where it was going to end up. I was hoping it'd end up with something different, but it was my idea. I said, I will support the result of this committee before there was a result.
Kinda
like
your higher principle right here is to go with the vote of a secret committee that you didn't even meet until the final hour, 11 hours and 38 minutes. You're going to go with that over the grassroots?
Well,
I don't understand that.
Hear me out. It's sort of like when you're on a city council. I'm on a city council, and there's debate, there's division of votes, but once the city council decision is made, whatever that might be, as a council, you support it, even if you were against it.
Why? If
Well,
it's
that's just
against
what I don't
liberty,
understand.
That's
I
just what
do not understand that at all.
Well, you people can disagree with me, and I accept that. But remember, before, and Mark will verify this, before we made that vote, I said I want everybody here to know I will vote in favor of this. But it was going to pass either way, just so you know. My vote wouldn't have mattered. But
the hell it wouldn't have mattered.
well,
you
it wouldn't
vote
have
the right way, and you could have spoke to it.
Well, I did, but it would have still ended up being that way. But I told people that, after this, immediately after this vote, I'm going to submit a motion, which is where I think we need to go. And that's the motion that I submitted. The first motion passed with a majority, but not a large majority. It was enough that my vote, one way or the other, it still would have passed. But the motion I made subsequent to that, which is the way I said this is where it should go, that was a super majority vote.
Yeah, but you understand that vote really
I know
didn't matter.
you can criticize, and I'll take
Well,
that.
but I'm right on this one because Otter Tail County didn't call a convention, did they?
No,
There you go. So your motion after the fact was that if Otter Tail County has a convention, they must seat the 2024 delegates as long as they sign the pledge. Correct?
And I don't agree.
So the facts are they didn't call a convention, right?
I don't agree with that decision. So.
What
yeah,
decision?
you can. I'll take the
That they
arrows.
didn't call
I'll take
it?
the arrows.
But did you not see that they weren't going to call a convention? You see now that Hand got everything he wanted.
Well, it didn't work out the way I wanted, and that's why I'm here. I wanted to make it clear.
Well, so how do we make this right?
I got 5 minutes, Jake.
Okay, you
Mark-
got something to say here, Mark?
I don't
I'm
really.
sorry.
I just feel like, I think principle is more important than any consensus. Like, what will you do, Alex, when this party, which they're going to, is try to move to the center left? That's what I talked to the Miracles, and they want to move to the center so that we can win. Are you okay with that, or do we stand on our principles? To me, that's the core of the issue. That's what's happening here in this state. The Miracles want to move center right so they can win, abandon our principles. If that's the consensus, will you go along with that, or will you fight for our conservative values?
Well, I don't want to talk personalities, individuals. I will say that I'm pretty far conservative in my values. There are certain things that I will not compromise on, things like abortion and Second Amendment. There are some really hard things I feel. But I am also practical, and I feel like we're not going to get anything done unless we get people elected.
But we almost won last time. We really did. Schultz, we only lost the Senate by 300 and a couple votes there. I mean, we almost won with poor messaging, not a lot of money. We can win if we engage the grassroots. If we've just disengaged, we had a record amount of disengaged voters in 2022, a record amount. And now we are growing that list. There's no question. We've now risked winning back the House. We cannot abandon our principles. We will lose this party and continue to lose. We almost won, Alex. We were so close.
I know. Well,
and with
I'm not
a little
arguing
bit of money,
I'm not arguing with you
if
on
we
that.
wanted to hose DePel, I mean, my race was inconsequential, but we could have held the Senate. Absolutely no question in my mind if we would have done the right things as a party. We lost based on that, and we will continue to lose if we give up on our principles.
There's a couple of comments here I wanted to get to. Rich Myron says that he was in the April 1st meeting and did not agree to the resolution that came out. Says that the members were more concerned with getting home than finding a reasonable solution.
Accurate statement? Is it Rich Myron?
Can you reread the
That
first
was
part?
the April 1st meeting. Says that people were more concerned with getting home than finding a solution.
The April 1st meeting.
I don't know about that.
That's the committee, the Otter Tail County Committee.
Oh, yeah, the committee maybe.
Yeah, would you agree with?
I can't comment to that because I wasn't there. I don't know.
No, this is the committee you just talked about, the task force, the committee.
Oh,
That's
that's
talking about
secret-
the April 1st, right?
The secret committee, April
The secret
1st.
committee.
No, there was no intent. There was no push to get done.
I mean, I guess that's very subjective. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I mean,
and I
obviously
see-
you
I
don't
didn't
subscribe
feel-
malice to David Hand, so that's
I was
subjective
there,
too, I
and
guess.
I wasn't feeling like there was any sense to just close this down. I didn't feel that. I think people could have been there to midnight if we needed to be.
So,
I don't think so.
the last comment I got, and I got to leave
yep.
off to work, but to me, and I can't prove any of this. This is where we're going to have to call this the speculation hurts instead of the truth. But to me, it seems like it was very well orchestrated. They knew up there in OTC, the board, that this was going to happen. When they tried to remove the convener, it was 180 to 35, give or take. I mean, it was an overwhelming response from the, let's just call this faction, the grassroots. And then to delay all these deliberations, to delay the task force, to delay everything, it all seems very orchestrated to me. I mean, I would bet a lot that is what took place. It's all politics. Politics is so greasy. And that's what happened. That's what happened.
Right, and especially when this race is so dependent on CD7, there are a lot of delegates who get to participate in CD7. Otter Tail has a huge amount of delegates who get to participate in that. Now all of these delegates are disenfranchised. They don't get a say in who gets to represent them in Congress. They don't get a say in who gets to represent them in the State House. All of them have been screwed out of their position, and they did nothing wrong.
Maybe. We'll see. There might be a
I
still a remedy.
don't disagree with that.
God
I said
bless
I-
everybody.
Mark, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you're almost late last time. So thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And God bless. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mark.
so I guess, and that's a really good point, Jesse, because in the end of the day, people got screwed.
Yeah.
Alex, you say that, I'm just trying to understand, you got levels of principles, okay? And it seemed to me that what you just said to us is one of your principles is when there's a consensus of a committee, you go along with that. Do I have that somewhat accurate? That's generally a high virtue that you have, is that
It's more of a practical way of how things work. When I have been on boards and when I have been on, like I'm on the city council, there is a general protocol, if you will, that if you have a vigorous debate and that debate results in a vote, and that vote comes, if it's a split vote, you might be on the minority side of the way that it went, but once the vote is taken, you move on and you support that vote. You don't continue to litigate in the public sphere. You bite your tongue, you grit your teeth,
okay.
and you say, okay.
That's a good principle.
And it may not have
yeah.
been correct here. I'll admit
Yeah, I was
that.
going to say, that's a good principle in the military and in business because in
And on
those
city
scenarios, people
councils.
have common objectives, right?
Yeah.
In politics, it's not like that, right?
Well, on city council it is. At least I think that's the appropriate behavior.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's why Zeta is way different than every other city council I've
Well,
ever
we
seen.
are viewed as
Generally
being
not.
pretty good. I know, but that's
Okay,
the way it should
But
be.
you just use that principle in terms of a secret committee, okay? And that's what you levied is why you voted the way you did, is you want to honor that commitment to the
Right.
committee. But then you said you have some things that are non-negotiable. Abortion's one of them, right? So in other words, if there was a consensus, whatever the committee is, it's city council, whatever it is, you would still speak out against that vote because abortion's a higher principle. Is that correct? Is that what I deduced from what you just said?
Yeah, pretty much.
So are you saying that above the principle of honoring the consensus of a committee is not disenfranchising hundreds of conservative delegates?
Well, I think I just said more than once that I probably made a bad decision at that point. But you at least understand why I did what I did, but recognizing that I was going to immediately follow it with a motion that wasn't expected. That did not come out of the committee. That wasn't the committee's recommendation. It was my recommendation. And I felt like that was the way to do it. I thought the Otter Tail County would do the right thing and call that convention. That's what I thought would happen. It didn't happen.
Right.
I was disappointed.
Why
They
did,
know.
why did you think that they were going to do the right thing when the leadership hasn't held a public meeting in 2 years for any of their delegates to attend?
Well, that's
Why would
gonna
you
change.
think that
That is going to change. But
why would you think the leadership would do the right thing if they haven't done anything good in years?
well, maybe I'm being naive, or maybe being too optimistic.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's generally a good thing is to try to see the good in people. I've been in politics too long to know that that's not the way to approach it.
Well,
'cause-
I'm becoming more cynical, but
Well,
I
that's
guess
what
I don't want to
happens.
get there too quickly.
Well, so and that's fair. Okay, so I don't want to beat you up on it. You just admitted it was the wrong vote. Okay, how are we going to correct this?
Well, one thing that just happened in the last few days, I don't think my state exec people even know this yet, so it's coming out here first, is that the deputy chair of CD7 and I have committed to coordinating together to do I don't have words for it, I'll say a postmortem analysis of what happened. Good, bad, the ugly. And then report out to everybody, all the constituents, as to here's what actually happened, and this is what came out of it, and this is where we see that you should go forward and to correct this. I know that the Otter Tail County chair and board is committed, they have committed to us as a state exec, that they're going to work to resolve this, that they're going to open up their meetings. That's a change.
Well, these guys just told you that they were going to do a
like within the last few days.
You just trusted these guys to hold a convention. They didn't do it.
Well,
so
they've committed that they're going to.
You understand, like what you just told me is like, why would I at all think that's anything?
So let's give them an
merit?
opportunity. Okay, let's give them an
But
opportunity.
hold on. This is what kills me. All right, you knew the timeline here, and there's no opportunity here.
No,
There
I'm
are
saying
people that are being disenfranchised right now. And we can't have that. We can't because we're a party that hasn't won since 2006. We haven't won a statewide election since 2006, and now we're saying hundreds of delegates. You guys showed up for a Tuesday night for an hour. Some of you guys were there for almost 2 hours, and we don't need your voice anymore. We're going to silence you. You got to go off. Like that can't be the answer.
That's what I've been saying right from day one. That's why I'm so pissed about
this. But somehow
right now.
there's got to be an action on your part, Alex. You just admitted you took the wrong vote. What's the way to correct that?
Okay, the wrong vote.
AAR is not going to solve this thing. It's good for us to learn from it, but you're dealing with political figures. David Ann's going to do what he's going to do no matter what. How do you fix it so these guys get reinstated?
They have committed to work with the opposition, the grassroots, the conservative caucus, or whatever they're calling themselves. I forget exactly. They have committed to working with them to come up with a way to resolve all this. They're going to open up their meetings, which have been closed, I guess, for a couple of years. Open it up, have that dialogue. I have to trust that they're going to work toward that.
How do we reinstate these delegates? So that's the big.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's a way to do that now.
You're the state exec.
It's
passed. You know these guys.
Passed.
No, but you guys know these. You know they're holding a convention this Saturday, right? Otter Tail County.
Some
called
people,
by precinct chairs.
The precinct chairs have pulled together. I don't know if that's something that can be recognized.
Well, you can. You're in the state exec.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that the results of that particular caucus, because of who was notified. I don't know the details.
Do you realize? I'm not assuming you read the Otter Tail County GOP Constitution. I'm assuming that. Is that a fair assessment?
No.
There is a provision in that. Did you have that ready to go, Dawson? There's a provision in there.
I don't think we have the location.
It's the one called conventions. It's Article 4 right there. Zoom in on the bottom paragraph.
None of these are 4.
Sorry, 9. Yeah, I know Roman numerals. I knew the one before the X meant to take one away. It says the BPOU convention shall be held annually. So you just voted for them to go against their constitution. They actually have to hold a convention annually, and the vote you took was that they shouldn't have a convention. It's just clear as day that they actually have to have a convention.
I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
Can you give at least, I know we got a lot of Otter Tail people, can you give them a commitment that you'll do something about this and work with them?
If there's something I can do, I will commit. I will do it.
Okay, well, I know there's a lot of good people there in the comment section. I see Carol. That's Forest Lake Conservative. What the just kidding. we got people all across the state, but I know there was a lot of Otter Tail. I think Tammy was in the comment section and the person that attended the meeting. So hopefully they could reach out. I hope you guys do reach out to Alex and try to work on this thing. But certainly I know David Hand's move is to just say, well, these guys can't have a convention, even though their GOP constitution says they have to have it. The other thing that I just need clarification, and I know you and Jesse probably want to chat because you guys don't see eye to eye on things, but you knew that the state executive committee could call a convention. So the reason you didn't support that in the end, because you knew about that play, was state exec calls a convention for Otter Tail County, which they have the authority in Article 8, Section 2. Was your reason not to actually move that motion just because purely you had trust that Otter Tail County was going to do the right thing?
Might have been naive, but yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. That's, I guess, that was the question I had. Like, I got to ask him that question. I thought you answered it. Hindsight 2020, right?
Hindsight
probably shouldn't have trusted these political figures. All right.
Yeah, and I had also seen a good comment from Tammy K. Berry, who was the convener in Otter Tail County, who had said that the rubric was intentional to disenfranchise delegates, and that she had sent a convention call out to all the people. So that is all good news to hear. That Tammy is on top of it, working on it. I did want to talk to you, Alex, because I guess you had said that we'd never met before, you and I.
I don't remember meeting. I remember seeing you around, but I don't remember meeting.
How do you not remember Maggot Jesse?
Sure. Well, we met at a Mike Pompeo speech. We were at, I think, whoever puts that on, the American Experiment, happened to be sitting next to each other. We just got to talking. I told you I supported Neil Shaw for governor. And you started belittling me. You tried to tell me I didn't know what was going on. You tried to tell me that Neil Shaw was going to run to a primary. He didn't want to abide by the endorsement. You were spreading all these lies. I'm sure that you were telling those lies to anybody who'd hear it. You were trying to, essentially, like I said, put me down. I could feel your ego. You had, made all these crazy statements. You were shaking your head when I said that I was a Trump Republican. You said, I tried to even find common ground with you. I said, hey, you're on the RNC. Didn't you censure Liz Cheney? And you said that you regretted doing that. And I don't know why you would regret censuring Liz Cheney. You were talking up Gazelka. I thought it was crazy. Come the next state central, I'm introducing a resolution. All I wanted to do was condemn the Trump indictments because the MNGOP was totally silent. And you were running up to the microphone to speak against it. And, then when I hear at your own BPOU, you're trying to kick out new delegates, that you're scaring off all these new people who want to just be involved in the process, there's just so many things. So I guess you didn't like the nickname, but I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere. And a little immature, I'll admit. But, there's so many things that I've looked at. The way the RNC debate commission was run. I know you're on that committee. And that whole process was so corrupt. You guys excluded good candidates. And on top of it, you let Chris Christie in 4 debates. You handed all the debates to the liberal major news nations like CNN. Why was CNN getting a Republican debate? And so, I guess when I was looking at all that stuff, and then especially when you're trying to fight me on the Trump indictments, I mean, give me a break. All I wanted was for the MNGOP to say that the Trump indictments were wrong. So what's your response to all that?
Well, first off, I don't remember any of that. So you're characterizing things from a memory that I don't even have. A lot of what you just said about the Presidential Debates Committee, for one, I will say you really don't know the details at all. And if you had actually researched what happened and how it happened, you couldn't say what you just did.
Oh, yeah? You don't think it was a corrupt process? I mean,
no,
you guys had the
not.
Beat Biden pledge.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
so,
but let's think Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson.
Please don't interrupt me, okay?
Well, I think
I'm rebutting what you're saying.
He does know the process.
I know. I've followed the process probably closer than anybody, maybe even closer than you.
For the presidential debates, I doubt that.
Yeah, no, I did. And guess what? I saw that they all had signed the Beat Biden pledge. It was a fake signature because they all admitted on stage that they wouldn't support Trump as the nominee. That was the point of the Beat Biden pledge that you guys required of the candidates to sign.
Is that factually incorrect?
I don't even know what he's talking
The
about.
Beat Biden pledge? I mean,
yeah, I don't even
you're
know
on the debate commission.
There was a Beat Biden pledge.
But I don't know what you're talking about, that there was some collusion. I will tell you that the...
but you remember Chris Christie, like, very openly said he would never vote for Donald Trump,
Mike
right?
Pence said it. Asa Hutchinson said it.
Yeah, they did, but I don't control what they have to say.
But that was the criteria for the debate.
The criteria to be on the debate stage was that they had to commit that whoever ended up with the nomination that they would support.
Right.
That was required of them to be on the debate stage.
Right.
That if they didn't support, they had to sign it. So they had to sign it in order to be on the debate stage. That was required.
Right. And
so they may have said other things, but they had to sign that to be on the debate stage. And that was the fair thing to do. I mean, I think most people would assume that it would be Trump. It didn't have to be. It could have been anybody.
Yeah,
the point is that whoever was going to be allowed to be on the debate stage was going to have to make that commitment. Donald Trump had to say the same thing. I mean, of course, he didn't participate.
He rejected
it. But he would have had to.
But he was honest, and that's what Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson and Mike Pence weren't doing. They weren't honest. They fraudulently signed that.
Well, I can't get into what's in their mind. I'm telling you
they
that
they
the
said
process,
it on the debate stage.
Jesse, the process was laid out. It was fair, and it was applied to everybody.
Except Perry Johnson, Larry Elder, those were 2 guys who qualified. The RNC even
didn't qualify.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't qualify.
Perry Johnson
Jesse,
made the walk
I'm
through.
telling you, they didn't qualify.
Well, Larry Elder
he had his own views.
They sued you guys.
he had his own views, but they didn't qualify. And there was no reason for us to bar anybody. I would have loved to have seen him on stage. And I think everybody there would. But he didn't qualify. He had his own view, but he didn't qualify. Not because we X'd him out. It's just these were the rules. If you didn't qualify, then you were off.
But
it
they
was
both disputed that.
He
Both-
did dispute it, but
Right.
it was verified that he didn't qualify.
According to who? Who
According to
verified
our
it?
rules. The rules that
No,
we
y-
established
the rules
for all
were-
candidates.
The
Okay,
rules
Jesse,
were very unclear. The rules,
they weren't-
especially on the polling standards, you
maybe
guys
to
didn't give
you,
any
they
kind of
weren't-
clarification.
maybe to you they weren't clear, but they were very clear.
No, you guys never gave any clarification on the polling standard. That's why Larry Elder and Perry Johnson didn't find out until the very last minute they didn't qualify, because it was you guys were only allowing these certain corrupt corporate
Well,
media
you say
polls.
corrupt. Okay, you say corrupt. That's your words.
Right.
Okay, we tried to be as fair as possible. We didn't handpick which polls we were going to take or not take. We basically said these are the kinds of polls that we will accept. Okay, that was laid out for everybody. Everybody had to comply. Some people made it, some people didn't. It's black and white. We didn't choose who would be on the stage or
No,
not.
I mean, I definitely was
arbitrarily.
following it closely, and I noticed that how sometimes it looked like the rules were bent for Tim Scott. Sometimes the rules were bent for Chris Christie to make sure that
But
they
they
were
weren't.
able to
You
get
can
in.
say that, but they weren't.
Well, it certainly seems like they were bent if the
They weren't bent at all.
Well, I'm saying that if the I don't know anything.
And I've written
I
an
don't know
article
about
on
that, but
this.
hold
I
on
mean,
one second.
people can look at foractionforliberty.com themselves, because I wrote an article that said Larry and Perry had drop out, endorsed Trump, how the RNC debate process was rigged.
I don't know about the poll part. I know I read when you wrote that, but certainly the pledge. I mean, Chris Christie was very adamant that he wasn't going to support Donald Trump, and so
But he still had to sign it to be on stage.
so just the fact that he signed the pledge, even though he
Yeah,
basically
if he wants to go back on
openly-
his word, that's up to him.
But don't. So you're just saying that you voted for that, but there's. I think the problem that people like Jesse have is there was no mechanism to then enforce the fact that there really is no pledge, because you might have signed something,
you
but
can't
you're
enforce
open.
it. That's true. You can't enforce it. Now, that'd be true for everybody. So, but we felt like these are the things that people have to agree to in order to be allowed to debate. You can't just be anybody, right?
Yeah.
You have to qualify. And so we said, here are the things that you have to personally agree to. And here are the polls that you're going to have to meet these certain thresholds. And they kept getting higher and higher over time because we would like to get the pool closer. But we didn't choose who, we didn't handpick who was going to make it or not. They were up to their own devices to make that qualification. If they made it, they were on. If they didn't make it, they were off. Now, of course, in
Well,
hindsight,
one of the polls that Chris Christie qualified for in the CNN debate, and I'm not sure if you like that CNN got a debate with the Republican Party. I think that was a big mistake. But one of the polls that he was using, it should have been disqualified. I'd have to remember all the specific details around it. But there were lots of people saying that that poll does not qualify, but the RNC gave him the pass.
well, yeah, that's your assessment, but trust me, we debated vigorously what would be qualified, and it was disrespectful of who the candidate was.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with that. It was a matter of what polls are we going to accept, and all the candidates were subject to the same rules, all of them. There was no difference between them. We would love to have certain people on the stage if they can make it, but at times they didn't. Like I said, in retrospect, it kind of doesn't matter because, you know, President Trump's going to be our nominee, and I don't think
I
there's
don't know.
anyone-
Barry Johnson could have gave him a run for his money.
well, I don't think so. But, so we're all behind President Trump now, and I am 100%. But during the debate process, you have to let the process play out. And so you might think it was rigged. You can say those words, but it wasn't. So you just have to, if you think you saw something, that I would say dig a little deeper, because it wasn't. We really debated it. We were very forthright with all of us on the debate committee to say we are not going to disenfranchise anyone for any reason. But here are the rules. And if you make it, you're in. If you don't make it, you're not in. Some people can debate on which poll was qualifying or not, but it was pretty black and white. They just didn't see it that way.
Okay, and then to the CNN point, do you think the RNC should have been giving CNN a debate and giving them millions of dollars worth of advertising and everything else that comes along with it?
Well, if you're hardcore Republican and that's your only perspective, I could see why you might say, why are we giving anything to CNN? But understand this. Republicans have a better message. Don't you believe that?
Agreed.
Would you agree that we have the better message?
Of course.
We have the better policy?
Some Republicans do.
Okay.
Some.
But generally speaking, you'd say
Some.
that we have,
Right,
we have the
generally
better
speaking-
policy
Generally speaking, I'd agree.
than the Democrats.
Mitt Romney probably
okay?
doesn't.
So we agree there that we have the better message. Why would we not want to get that message out to as broad an audience as possible? People that may not know us.
Well, then you don't go to CNN.
Well, but because they're actually going to.
You want an audience. I mean, my God, don't go to CNN.
Well, we want to broaden the audience, not just Fox News and so on, which we definitely did. We want to broaden the audience so that our message goes to people who might not otherwise hear it. That's the reason you have the different outlets, and they competed for this, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we just granted it to CNN because they're CNN. No, not at all. We had all the major networks invited with RFPs. They all came in. We met with the top executives of all these media outlets, and some of them were going to be teamed up. And we looked at see what can you provide. And it wasn't there was no editorial part to it. We did have a vote on who couldn't be the moderator.
Yeah.
We had the ability to veto certain people, but we couldn't tell them, here's who you must be.
Yeah.
Okay. This is their show. They pay for all this. We don't pay for any of it. Okay. They pay for it all. You know, set up and everything. It's their money, and they vie to get our business. So we give them an RFP, and when they can provide broad audience through obviously broadcast TV, but also online stuff, and if they come to us and they can show that they've got a broad appeal to a lot of audience, that's a good thing for us because our message is better.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, some people are not going to buy it, but a lot of people are going to be open to it. And it may be the only time they actually see it, because if you're relying on only Fox News watchers who don't ever, there are going to be people out there who never watch Fox News. You know, people that watch CNN, but they never watch Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why wouldn't we want to go after those people too?
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have a better message.
Yeah,
so that's
makes
the
a lot of
reasoning
sense.
behind it.
I think why your point on this one there, Jesse, is so flat is because wasn't it Donald Trump that gave CNN a town hall meeting? So wouldn't those same arguments work on that one?
Right. Well, I guess my problem is just I don't think the RNC should be using CNN as as if they're an actual good moderation tool for a debate, because they've done nothing but lie about conservatives. They've done nothing but promote false information about COVID, and I don't think that they should be rewarded in any capacity. And I would have rather seen a company like Newsmax or a real conservative news agency get a debate when they were trying really hard.
Well, we did actually try to get Newsmax, just so you know. We wanted them. They did not. They wanted top billing, okay, and they didn't have the financial wherewithal to do that. They couldn't pull it off, and so we really wanted them, but they couldn't pull it off.
Was there any like new media like Daily Wire that made a bid?
We had a
Something
lot
like
of people, and a lot of these things, a lot of these outlets were going to have to be like teamed up,
Yeah.
because people
Too
like
small.
Daily Wire
Yep.
we love, but they don't have the financial strength to pull off something this. And the last thing you want to do is to have a national debate that everybody watches and it fails for technical reasons
Right.
or whatever. That would be very embarrassing, and it wouldn't help us. So we want to make sure that it's going to come off. And the larger networks have that kind of financial wherewithal to do it. So we tried to match up people with a lot of money and the ability to pull us off with other outlets. So you have like a CNN with a more conservative outlet, and we were very successful in that. And we drove a hard bargain. We were very clear with them that you can't have these certain people as moderators, even though we can't dictate who it must be, but we can certainly say who it can't be. And we were successful there. And all of the networks that work with us were seemingly pretty fair about that. They said, yeah, we understand. And I don't think you can point to any debate that was horrible. I mean, they all pulled off.
No,
went off pretty well.
they were actually all horrible.
Well,
you
you
guys
know-
should have forced Trump to debate, because then we would have actually had some
I would
entertainment.
have loved to have seen Donald Trump on the stage. That would have made it a lot more interesting.
It's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate because the guy is so damn entertaining. It's the best I ever saw.
It would have
was,
been more fun, that's for sure.
a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy rocked it in 2015, 2016.
Maybe from his perspective, maybe he did the right thing because
No, that's not. I
why
hate
doesn't
it.
he-
It's always the political answers.
So why did-
Too risky. Yeah, but come on, entertain us.
Yeah, well,
Politics
I'd
gets
love to have
boring.
seen him, but that's his choice, not ours. And at the time, it was Ron McDaniel, of course, and David Bossie was the chair of that committee, and I've gotten to know him pretty well over time, which is kind of cool. They were in contact with President Trump virtually every day throughout the whole process. And what you hear on the public from him is not what is being said privately. It's a lot more civil and so on. But there's the media part. We would have loved to have seen him on stage, but that was his choice.
Of course, better ratings. So
Well, yeah, then moving, if we're talking about Trump, why were you against my resolution to condemn the Trump indictments?
Yeah, Jesse, I just don't remember that. I don't. I mean, I'd love to tell you that there's a reason. There had to be, because
Well, I had noticed you because, I noticed someone getting off the stage, coming down to speak at the microphone, waving your hand that you want to speak in opposition. So obviously there was a reason.
I don't remember that, so I can't answer that. I will tell you right now, I don't know what I was thinking then. I don't know what I would have said then, because I don't remember that at all. Okay, you're ascribing something to an action I was about to take that I just don't remember. So I can tell you what I feel now, and what I've always felt, and that is that what's been happening to Donald Trump is horribly wrong.
Good.
It is purely political, and I think anybody would be an idiot not to actually know that and recognize that. It is so wrong that there's not even words to describe it. It is so wrong. To weaponize the agencies and the court system against a former president, it is clearly political. I don't recall ever a time where I didn't think that. So I really don't know what you're referring to. But that's how I feel now. That's how I was always felt about it. And the longer time goes, with more and more of these things, the more angry I get about it. If for no other reason President Trump should be the president, I mean, there's lots of reasons he should be president. Okay, a lot of really good reasons. But if for no other reason, to get back at the people that are
that's my argument for Trump in this election cycle. Because trust me, there's many reasons why I wanted someone other than Donald Trump. Anthony Fauci. Sorry, Jesse, brought that one up many times. But it's the revenge tour. That's what I want to see, because it's like these guys are going so hard against him right now, and they're doing something that's cataclysmically changing the dynamics of politics in the United States in a very dangerous, bad way.
I don't disagree.
I'm dumbfounded what they're doing, because
I don't
it's
disagree.
like, do you think this is not going to come back at you guys 2 times harder? And so it's like the revenge tour in many regards is better. And the media wants us to think, oh, but if he gets in, he'll be a dictator, which was another quote that was taken completely out of context by anyone that has half a brain cell.
Yeah.
Which is
well,
not
you and I are
CNN.
both veterans.
Yep.
And we both took the same oath, and to defend the Constitution, not a president, not to defend the Constitution, right? And I took that oath very seriously, and I'm sure you did too. I will tell you the way I feel right now. I'm still an absolute patriot, but the country that we are living in now, with all this stuff going on that you're talking about, is not the country I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's happened. It's the country is leaving us, which is why I'm fighting so hard to get back to the country that we used to have. And I'm going to do everything I can to help that happen. I'm just one guy, okay? There's only so much I can do, but I want to see our country come back.
Well, you can start by helping the delegates in Otter Tail County and restore them.
Okay. Well,
Because
that's why
I mean, I'm kind of being funny, but at the same point, I'm not.
Yeah,
Because if we just ignore the fact that grassroots good people, and these are good people,
I know
we
they
went
are.
up there, and that we're just going to say you're disenfranchised for 2 years, that's not the America that you and I believe in. Not at all.
And I agree, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, good.
And if I did admit that I think I made the wrong choice in that one vote. Wouldn't have mattered. It would have still have passed, but I think I made the wrong choice there. I should have gone the other way, and I'm freely admitting that right here.
So then it's time to correct it.
Now to whatever I can do. I don't know what we can do at this point.
I think I saw the people in the comment section. They'll reach out to you. Let's why don't we do this? Let's read a couple comments. We'll sign off, and then we'll go into the OT. Let's do our little Israel and Ukraine, because you had an Israel story, so let's do that. And then you and I don't see eye to eye. I don't know if we'll have any time to really do it, because we'll probably go for about 15 minutes. But maybe we get into it a little bit there. Good jabbing,
Yeah.
This is a contentious debate, I think, on the right. The left is not having a good debate. That one's getting bloody. But let's do that in the OT. So if you want to join that, paid subscribers go to locals. If you're on Rumble, you just click on the join. If you've already joined, then you could just do that. But let's go to a couple comments before we sign off here.
Right. Carol Hexum said the Republican Party platform is good. However, the leadership has drifted away from the principles. Bleeding Aluminum says Washington has the swamp. Minnesota has the club. Failed Candidate says letting CNN hold a debate is a suggestive political move. I like being on the offense. They like that. And
Oh, I like that
Let's
Billy
see here.
22 one there.
Billy 22, yeah, the country has not left us. The government has betrayed the citizens. Exactly.
I feel that way 100%. Great show, guys, Tucker says. There you go. Northern Minnesota, honorable guy. I'm guessing he's referring to you. There you go.
I hope so.
Well, I think if you admit that you made the mistake, now I'm going to hold you to fixing that mistake, but because I think admitting it's the first step and then doing
Well,
something about it.
I will say this: we had not met until just now,
Right.
right? Okay. You don't hold me accountable. The delegates do. The people up there. That's who I'm committed to. And you kind of, but I'm committed to them.
I'm a
And
platform. A platform. Well, you said this before. I don't think you're going to mind if I say this, but you said this off air, was that one of the contentious things on the state exec is that, Action for Liberty is talking too much about this issue, but you alluded to, but they're the only ones informing the people what's going on.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
heard,
a real problem.
I'll say it publicly here. Some of my fellow state may not like this, but I was told by somebody that I like and trust and respect a lot recently, within the last week, that it seems like the only good, true information they're getting is from you guys. And
That was a hell of an endorsement right there, brought to you by Warren Wessel of Warren Wessel Realty. Give Warren a call at 6-1. It's almost like we planned that there, huh?
well, I wasn't trying to lay this up, but I will say that's whether that's true or not, okay, whether it's true or not, if that is the perception of at least one person I trust, it probably is the perception of many people.
Right.
And that's sad. If that's the case, then we need to fix it.
It took Alpha News even a month just to even do a story on this thing. And that was just the two legislators writing the letters to you guys. So, I mean, it's just interesting. To me, it was a no-brainer that we had to, and I thank Action for Liberty for fighting it. Eric Mortensen and the team doing a great job. And thank you to our sponsors, Warren Wessel Realty. If you're buying or selling a home, give my friend Warren a call, 612-419-7453. If you're buying a home, use John Galt Mortgage Company, and you can find those great people at johngaltmortgage.com and Alpine Cabinetry as well up in East St. Cloud. We're going to go into the OT. Thank you to the people with the Rumble Rants and liking and subscribing on this platform. We'll do probably about 15 minutes. I told you about 2:30 here, so try to keep it to that. So we'll be here still with Alex and the OT on Locals Only. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you. Oh, wait, you know what? We're not going to be back on Tuesday. Dawson and I are in Vegas for the National Association of Broadcasters show. We got some equipment and stuff we're going to be looking at. There's some big things happening. I'll just put it that way. So that's where all the geeks like Dawson meet and talk about, I like it when they talk about microphones and cameras, but they also talk about the really weird stuff that none of us understand what it is.
Remember last year how some guy came up to me when he started talking about video games,
Yes.
like immediately?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, put it that way. I felt really out of place in that.
My
Video
people.
games. So anyhow, we'll be back on Thursday next week. Thank you guys very much, and see you guys at the OT.